few Bacher mentioned to me, Taka, that the Maamar is a very Geschmack Maamar, Merdika Maamar. So two inyanim. Number one, as you can see in this Maamar, it continues the Hemshech. So it's Mamish a Hemshech to a few Maamarim back. I believe it was Kisisa. Sprach about the Avtzon and the Tzimtzum. Shabbos Yisrael. A lot of inyanim there were spoken about there, and some other inyanim as well, and also the Purim Maamar. We get apart from the inyanim. And Be'etzem, the Kisisa Maamar and the Tzeischa Maamar, it's Be'etzem from the same sugya in Ayin Beis. The Kisisa is Berech and Kisisa Vayakel Ayin Hey, and Kimei Tzeischa, as you can see in the Ara 9 over here. It starts from Vayikra Moshe Ayin Hey, and it goes on. Right, this is the sugya. After Vayikra is Tzav Matzazu. It's the sugya. It's known as the Rebbe's Bar Mitzvah Hemshech. The Rebbe's Bar Mitzvah was on Friday at Aleph Nissen. No, you do it. When you see that you're doing a Maamar, what does it mean? You do it. So the Rebbe's Bar Mitzvah, just like the birth was on a Friday, the Rebbe said there's a Freitag area. The Rebbe told Schallenberg Gansberg in Tavshinot Beis a few months before Chazayin Adar, and the Rebbe once said something. There's a Freitag area. He was born on Fridays, he's always late. Fridays, so there's a Freitag. And he's always catching up. Anyway, so the Bar Mitzvah was also on a Friday. For Friday, Parshas Tzav. So then, that week's Tzav, and then Matzazu, Vayiyana, maybe a Mashmini. That's the Sugya, so Hebt on Reiden, Vegin, Hafichas HaTzimtzum. Choshech Atzma Yoer, Hafichas HaTzimtzum. And this Sugya by the Rebbe was one of the Sugyas, and one of this group, this mini Hemshech, right? Ayin Beis is made up of mini Hemshech. This Hemshech that starts over there, Ikar Tzav, and it goes till that's in the end of Ayin Hey, into Ayin Vav. Well, it's the end of Ayin Hey. The Hafichas HaTzimtzum. The Rebbe went back to this Hemshech Kama Pamim. So rather this Maamar Tezayin, so here in Tezayin, it's you can see this here the Kimei Tzeischa, and a few Maamar before that is Kisisa. The year before that, Achron Shal Pesach, it's a Maamar that's more known than this Maamar Kimei Tzeischa, the Maamar of Nigla Kvei Davaya. You might have learned it in Yeshiva or heard of it. A little more Yadua, Nigla. Rather, I think Mendy Groner says about the Maamar of Nigla that he chazer the Maamar, the label son, he chazer the Maamar by his L'chaim. And the Rebbe asked Leila which Maamar he chazer, and he said labels of Nigla Tesvav, and the Rebbe made as a Tenua, a flaw of the Maamar. So there's a Hemshech in Tesvav. The year is it Mitzayin here to the year before? It's probably closer. In our Maamar, he doesn't speak about those inyanim so much. More the end of the Maamar connects to that. Yeah, where he's Mitzayin towards the end of the Maamar, 62, 64. The Gilui Erein Tzoif, the Gilui of Bligvul that's going to be when Mashiach comes. So that's Barichis in those Amar Nikol Kvei Davaya maybe Mashmini Tesvav. So there's a Hemshech there, and there's a Maamar Vayhi. What is it? Machar Chodesh, I believe. Chav Dalid also from the Shabbos after Achron Shal Pesach. And then there's Chafei, a Mukadik Maamar. V'Nacha Chafei. V'Nacha Chafei is the same sugya. V'Nacha Chafei is also in a Sicha, in the Kota Sichas. Shmini, Chelik Yud Zayin. Of the Gilui Achar Tzimtzum, the Velt Alein. The Velt Alein, the Helim itself brings Gilui. You probably have learned the Sicha. Anyway, it's one of the sugyas that the Rebbe goes back to again and again. The same Maamar, very Geschmack Maamar. There's big chidushim there. So that's the Maamar here, Achron Shal Pesach. A lot of the interessante inyanim, a lot of inyanim that are mamash bekitzer, and each one's a sugya shleim and kizitzin do af yeder sif. Yeah. So we'll try to discuss a few inyanim kloliyim. We'll see where we get to. Just one inyan. It's all the Maamar Mekoyim that were brought in the back. I'm not sure if this inyan was brought. Probably was toes was nishmat. So Kiyadua, this is Yidua because we already spoke about it a few times. That the Maamar a lot of times feed into the Sichas. All right, so the Rebbe had the Indian Maamar, and then the Tzeischa after the Maamar, the Tzeischa before the Maamar, the Rebbe continues in the next Farbrengen. So one Indian, I think this was brought, is that something the Rebbe spoke about Lol Beis the Chag Pesach, that they're Mitzayin over here towards the end of the Farbrengen, the end of the Maamar. Where is it here? In R61. But in the Farbrengen itself, this Farbrengen itself, Achon Pesach, so the Tzeischa, Sif Yotes in Teres Menachem. Of which Farbrengen? Of Lo Beis. I'm talking about Achon Pesach. Besides for Lo Beis that the Rebbe is Mitzayin to, but after the Rebbe said this Maamar, the Maamar was towards the beginning of the Farbrengen. So a few Sichas later, the Rebbe Gereta Sicha, and the Rebbe said, Al derech inspired by Maamar, being Kibirabim Hayu Imodi. Right, so that in the Maamar, in our Maamar, where's Kibirabim Hayu Imodi? It's in the end of Sif. Right, it's also all the way at the end. Where does the Rebbe start speaking about it in the middle? Sif Vav. The end of Sif Vav. ACR 41. It's the capital the Rebbe started saying. Very interesting. Right, in those years, Kama Pamim, you had by the Achron Shal Pesach Maamar. Then when the Rebbe started saying us a Maamar on Lo Beis the Chag Pesach, from Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe Farbreng the second night of Pesach. Right, the earlier Rebbe, I think it's about Tzemach Tzedek, Rebbe Marash, was Farbreng after the second Seder. The Friedike Rebbe, and I think also the Rebbe Shmoseiden, would Farbreng by the second Seder. By the first Seder they would do quicker, they wouldn't speak like us to finish for Chatzos. And the second Seder they'd Farbreng by the Seder. You see in Sefer Sichos the Friedike Rebbe, he also goes through Magin, goes through Manishtana, Rachmania, Allah Seder, like similar to the Rebbe Shmoseiden. That would be during the Seder. The Rebbe went back to the earlier derech. The Rebbe didn't speak so much during the Seder or at all. And the Rebbe would Farbreng after the second Seder. Farbreng would start like 1:30 upstairs. It was Farbreng. So the Farbreng would start from Yud Aleph. But then there were only Sichos. There would go the Sichos ala Seder of the Agada. I don't know if every Farbreng. It says that some of the Farbreng is a part of the Farbreng. Also, but because the Rebbe's eyes were closed because the Ilam the Ilam wasn't together. Shlena says the Ilam wasn't. It wasn't a pretty sight. But the Rebbe Geret says the Ilam wasn't listening. When Asach Moskvin Areach there's a Mugad Gesiche Chag Pesach Chelik Yud Zayin. There's two sichas there, right? One about the three names, and one a long sicha about the Haggadah. It never goes through the whole Haggadah. Merdik sicha. You say this sicha about the Haggadah. That is Yedua. Zichar. So it's Merdik sicha. It goes through many chalakim of the Haggadah. Shlomo said he remembers that the Rebbe spoke about a few other chalakim of the Haggadah that no one remembered. It was like even what was there, people tried to remember. They couldn't remember everything. It was what's in the book? This is 6 chalakim k'tam v'agadah, 7 k'tam v'agadah. It goes through from Hilach Ma'anya till Chabakol v'Nitzenu, many parts. So there were more parts there. Anyway, but it was Meirdikin Yanim. So this went through Tes Zayin. In Tafshin Yud Zayin, I believe the next year, the size for the Sichos, they started saying a Maamar as well. This went through Tafshin Lamed Aleph. Right, there's no Seder anymore. There was no Suddis upstairs anymore. So then the whole Farbrengen stopped. So there was already a Maamar. So then, when the Maamarim started, then sometimes the Rebbe would bring an Inyan from Yud Aleph Nissen, the capital, in the Lo Beis Chag Pesach Maamar. So Pesach, Lo Beis Chag Pesach. There's a Sefer Maamarim Yud Aleph Nissen, and there you see from the earlier years, you see that there's Achon Pesach Maamarim. Sometimes, or Lo Beis Chag Pesach Maamarim that connect to the later years already. The Yud Aleph Nissen Maamar. Sometimes the Rebbe would. Was that right, but that's Lamed Aleph, Lamed Beis. No, Lamed Aleph, Lamed Beis. The Rebbe, but not always. Not always in the Aleph Nissen Maamar was in Lamed Aleph already. There's what's it the Haski, right? And then Lamed Beis was the Shabbos before Yud Aleph Nissen. Haroye and Nisker, right? Okay, so in Siv Vav Vasrek Eret. Vegin the Tzimtzum, right? There's a few halakim to the Maamar, but when we get to Avodah Sa'adim, there's two Yesoidas. There's two halakim. One is the tzimtzum, right? In Avodas Adam, the tzimtzum of Avodas Adam, and the second is the Gili Eira Bligval of Avodas Adam. And based off our Avodah, that's what we're Mamshech Lamaila. In a way, it also works for Keret. The reason that we have these two Avodas is Keneged, the two Daris that we have Shaykhs to. So first we say that where are we Shaykh to from the tzimtzum and on? Because only from the tzimtzum and on is there already a Mokim Lo'olemis, is there already a Tzimtzum Mokim for us. So on that level, where's the highest we could go? Right, we get to the Oyer, we get to the Erekav, because the Tzimtzum, which is the Sheirish of the Erekav. The Sheirish of all Halamis Vesterim and all Mailu Mato, Kedima V'ichor, starts in the Tzimtzum. Okay, so in the Tzimtzum, so the Tzimtzum is that the Eibishter was mitzamtzim himself, Ribui Tzimtzumim, to come all the way down here. You have to, Tzimtzum, in this case, when we're speaking about the Maamar of Tzimtzum, what would be the right translation for Tzimtzum? Here at Tzimtzum, we see a lot of Nekuda of focus, right? Hyper-focused, to the rechts, to the links, Lamaila, Lamata, very, right? There's a limitation of focus, very Nekuda Gvura like that. So how do we come to Tzimtzum and the Gili the Erakah that comes through the Tzimtzum? How do we reach a Tzimtzum? By us doing our Tzimtzum. How do we do our Tzimtzum? There's a lot of Reicha right, in Sivav, that you take all the koichs and nefesh that you have, and you hyper-focus them in one direction, towards one thing. Moichin, I have a brain. A brain is inquisitive and it's curious, yeah. But where's the brain? Where am I using my head? Chachmas HaTorah only. Where am I using my ave? Only ave lavai, not ave zara. Gvura only for tefillah, v'chulu for the Eibishter, no kas and gaiva, etc. Everything is only in Torah mitzvahs. That's level one. That everything is focused only towards Torah mitzvahs. Noch tifer, that's tzimtzum of in kedusha and not klipa, right? I'm focusing. I'm mitzvahs that should only go to kedusha, not klipa or kludas noiga. Noch tifer in kedusha gufe, there's a bigger tzimtzum. What's the tzimtzum now? That there's this like super focus. All I want is Torah mitzvahs. I'm not looking past. What's past it for schar mitzvah? I'm not talking about a lot of zicher, grob schar, right? Schar gashmi, even schar ruchni, even a schar of gila likus benafshay. Yeah, by doing the Ratzin Hashem, I'm building a kasher to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter and likus vet leichtem amir, right? I'm going to be less grob. I'm going to be more edel. I'm going to be more ruchni. I'll have a shayches. Das euch nicht. Rather, what's the avodah? Kabbalas el dafke. You're in ganzen with samtzim yourself. And he says interesting word. Hitiru is like what's lost. Hitiru ledaber divrei Torah b'Shabbos. The kaishi hitiru ledaber b'Shabbos. So here, what's the hitiru? Hitiru lekayim Torah mitzvahs for hamshachas eir benafshi. Why hitiru? And this is a very big word. The hitiru is not because fart, we're nice people, it's a nifl month from a yid, you're going to tell them that you can't have any shaykh. Let you feel something. No. The hitiru for Gilikus Benafsha is because that as well, Atvtzon is about bittul. Why? Because even though the Nefesh Elikis is all inspired and all excited about Gilikus Benafsha and Nefesh Bahamis and Guf have no interest in it. So for them it's bittul. Telling the Nefesh Bahamis that you can have Gilikus Benafsha, no. It's Farta Shvira. So the hitiru, hitiru for Gila Likus is why? Because dort neichada bittul. Maybe it's not mishlemos because Farta Nefesh, or it's not bittul of Nefesh Elikis. It's only bittul of Nefesh Bahamis, or Farta is bittul. So now when you see over here very interesting word, right? This is Tanya Perigva, yeah. Elikus is bittul. Elikus is bittul. I hitiru because dort neichada bittul. What you have in many Maamarim is that any bittul, any yira, even yira so'inish, and even yira on a very basic level, is mechuber to yira ilah, right? Because if you're talking about what am I scared of, or what I'm nispatel, what kind of Kabbalah, what level of Kabbalah say I have, you can ding it, what level, very low, very high, more sophisticated. But if you look at the nekudas habitul, the nekuda that it's nish vegen mir, it's about the Eibishter. So the moment I go out of my sense of zich and what I'm going to gain from it, no matter what, right? The moment there's a shvira and my yeshus was fractured, There's already the Nekudas Abit. Here's an interesting twist that even when I'm looking for something, but because part of me doesn't want it, part of me isn't happy, there's something about this that makes you uncomfortable. Or part of your personality is uncomfortable. If you're a little uncomfortable, it's alikus. That's the word. Fine. Now, what's this Kabbalah still? I think we spoke this. I don't think this was in Kisis. It was another mind, or was also in Kisis. We spoke about it then as well. Pashas Kabbalah says, Kabbalah says, I have no agenda, I have no interest. Why am I doing the Eibishter Kahis? That's it, yeah? But really it's more, right? We said over there that what's the word of Kabbalah sale? The Kabbalah sale to memala sein der Ratzen von Eibishter. Right? The next ket, Padav Shalom Nafshi, Ki berabim hayu imodi. Why am I doing the mitzvah? I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for the Rab. What's the Rab? I'm doing it that there should be gilul likus ba'olam. Meaning there's a difference, because in the previous ket, there's a lashon there, that take kima mitzvahs your poyel hamshachas eirish for dir lo yisbarech. But nevertheless, the kavod there shouldn't be for this. Kim lekayim teir mitzvahs hakabolos el dafke. Right? That's like 5 lines before the end of the first keta involved. But in the next keta, in the Padav Shalom Nafshi, he says that you're not doing it b'shul atzmei, kim b'shul rabim, liyachad kutcher b'chol shchenti b'tachtoinim. Which is enough gilui likos of gilui air. So is Kabbalah Seil Shela Dir Lo Yisbarach as he says in the previous keta, or Kabbalah Seil is about Dir Lo Yisbarach? Which one is it? Norva then l'chayre the pshat is we can't hear the Maamar the exact most of the way the Rebbe said it, but l'chayre the Dir Lo Yisbarach the Rebbe Shela in the first keta is the personal dir, right? There's a dir of Perek Lamed Gimel, Daled, and then there's a dira Perek Lamed Vav, right? There's the dira of a personal dira that I am connected and I have gilul likus by me, or there's the dira of the Eibishter revealed the Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu for a dira. What the Eibishter is dira, gilul likus ba'olam, right? So the first oifin, that's what was nishlal, but that the koishi hitiru or hitiru that you could have it for gilul dira. Dira means gilul erbenaf, right? But what does Kabbalah Oil mean as a zuch dir lo yisbarich? It's a very important nekuda. Kabbalah Oil is not dry and just like whatever. There's no agenda. No, there's an agenda. It's not a personal agenda. It's the Eibishter's agenda. So this is in the Maamar. In the Tzeischa after the Maamar, a few seconds later. So Bichlal, and you see this English in the Tzeischa, the Maamar that Rebbe Retmer and the Skoldik ACS or Kabbalah, the Tzeischa the Rebbe teaches it. It's a moira dika Tzeischa. In Teres Menachem, it's Sifyu Tes and Chaf. It's a Sikhe, the Mamish. It's Mamish Chaf Ches Nisan on Aleph. Yon the Yema. I'll just bring some of the shyness from it. So the Rebbe brings Kibrab Moyu Imadi, right? That the Avodah is not Lahamshach Urban Nafshay, rather it's for the Rabbim. Das heißt, or to Makarev another. So first of all, the Rabbim means Makarev another get the Torah mitzvahs. And this means, as the ganze Ratzin from mentioned, the entire Ratzin of a person is an Ein on Ein Tzeke Inyan. That it should be Mekoyim, the Inyan of Mallar, it's this, of Shabbai, Kamei, of Mechasim, that a person puts everything al Atzad, that's in the Kud of Tzimtzum by a person, he has no other interests, his only interest is, L'yachad Kutcher B'rich Shon B'tachtoin. And when people will have this Ratzin Be'emes, as Be'emes, the person's going to want B'yas Mashiach, you're going to be Poyel. You're going to be Poyel B'yas Mashiach if you want it with an Emes. Ritzoin Yirei Av Yasa. There goes into the whole beer. What's Ritzoin Yirei Av Yasa? That if you have the Ratzin for Mashiach, even if it's only a Ratzin, it didn't go into Seichel, it didn't go into Midas. Allah has Kama, it didn't go into Machshava Dibur Maisa. But there's a Ratzin. There's a Ratzin. There's a Shaila. A person must have been an Emes. Is the Etzman must have Shaila must have been an Emes, or it's Shaila must have been an Emes, and therefore it's going to make him do something. Right? The Sikh itself, there's two nekudas there. But here in the Sikh, the Rebbe says the Etzem Ratzin. It's in the Rei of Yasa. You have a Ratzin. Your Ratzin is Mashiach. Even though you'll have to leave everything behind with your Kovetz, your Mitzias, your Yeshus, and Adar Shtusim, and Alele Shtusim, you're ready for all you want from Mashiach to come, you'll be Mashiach's Talmud. So when you want this Be'emes, Mashiach's going to come. It's a common point that Rebbe spoke. And in Yela Maisa, if alle Bnei Yisrael wollen zusammenreden und schreien that they want Mashiach to come, Mashiach's going to come take it from here. Right? So that's what everyone learns the Maisa from the Maimon. In other words, what's the Kabbalah sale here? Shrayim mit an emes, right? Not mipnei atzivui. Right? So it's interesting, the kuda, like, what's Kabbalah sale? The shrine and masa mipnei atzivui, is that Kabbalah sale? Sounds what's Kabbalah sale, right? Kabbalah sale just, I say, this is what it says, therefore do it. Or Kabbalah sale means that you're mekabel alecha ritzoyni yizbarich. Not just the mitzvahs. That was medayik, was a midbar and aleph. Doesn't say lasis mitzvahs avicha shvashamayim. Lasis ritzoyin avicha. Yeah, you're mischaber to the ratzin klali. The ratzin b'dir yizbarich. That's your interest. That's what you care for. And the Eibush is kavan is malaris de'esavaya gilal likus ba'ilam. So that's what a person. They also have the word as unser Zach is tal, nicht luftan. Yeah, there's always aber lepoil the monzich and that was the monzich height often. Fine, I'm going to go a bit in a different direction when it comes to Shayla Klalis over here. We'll go back earlier in the Maamar. So in Sif, Beis, and Gimel, so eret the Lama Yard and Neshama Lamata, right? Why did Neshama come down here? So in the second Keta in Sif Beis, so he says, why is the Neshama down here? It's not B'shvil, Eino B'shvil HaNeshama Atzma, rather it's L'chvei de Yizbarich. And he goes on and says, the third line of the second Keta, Hainu she'ef sherloimer she'b'riyas Neshama, right? You can't say that the B'riyas Neshama is for the Neshama itself. Why can't you say it? What's in the Kud that he says there? There's a lot of dargis here, Eris and Kalim and Sherish, but what's in the Kud that he's saying? Why can't you say it's for the Neshama itself? Huh? It's already a very high Sherish, right? So he already finishes off this Sif Beis. You can't say that it's a Shul Ilmus Al Yoinim because it's a Yerida. So you have to say that it's for the Kavan, for the Dir B'Tachtoin. Then he goes in Sif Gimel and says the emes is that also for the Neshama Alein there's a big Yerida Aliyah. He says however high the Neshama is, if you go to Kalim and the Sheirish, it's always higher, right? He goes to many dargas and spheres and it always goes higher. Same thing with Torah. No matter how high Torah is, even though Torah is higher than Yisrael, but even there you could be mechaber Torah with Kutcha Brichot, the end of Sif that Keta in Sif Gimel. Okay, so one second. You were just meichiach in Sif Beis. You were just meichiach. We have to say that Yiras Neshama is for Dir B'Tachtoinim because we can't go higher. That's the proof. Then we say, but really, you can. Really, you can. What's that? So the proof we just brought in Sif Beis is off. Like you just based the whole Yisai based off of proof. And he says, but really, you could go higher. There's a way. We can figure it out. You could always go higher. But far, that's not the Tachlis HaKavana. Tachlis HaKavana is B'shul Kvei de Yisbarech, that you're mashal the Kavana. And when you're mashal the Kavana, it makes an aliyah also in the Neshama. Right? And as he explains, what's the beer that he gives? The Tachlis is, everything has to be Nes'ala. The doivim goes into the chai and into tzemech. Tzemech is eaten by the chai. The chai is consumed by the medaber. The medaber has to go into everything has to go up, and he brings the shamish as kohen. When you do your kavana, you will have an aliyah as well, but that's not the kavana sabriya. Rather, it's lavness Hashem Yisbarach. Okay, what's going on over here? What is it? It's like Sif Beis. Like, by the way, the kavana is only dir lo Yisbarach, is to fulfill the kavana. How do we know? Because it doesn't make sense, because there's no aliyah that can happen to you. It's coming on tiny, you could have an aliyah. First, you should know it's not the tachlis. Right? What's happening here? What's the... Then he goes back to this at the end, right? Where does he go back to this? You have the chazon all the way at the end of the Maamar. That when a person has a sp'diyah b'shalim, when you're avodas v'shul rabim, your mamshich the greatest giluyim, fine, the greatest giluyim, and fine, and then you reach your shleimus as well. Okay, so what's happening? The emes is that there is chayra stira in different mekayris and chassidus. In lama yard and neshama lamad. Lama Yarden Neshama Lamata. Yeah, you open up Torah, because the Torah Pashtos, everyone does it each week. So many times, many Maamar start with the Shaila, or in the middle. One of the Sifim starts with the Shaila. Lama Yarden Neshama Lamata. Yeah, but Chassidus famous word. How many times can you ask the same question? Because no matter how many answers you give, it's fart. Right? You wake up the next day, fart Lama Yarden Neshama Lamata. There's many different answers. So sometimes Taka we say that it can't be for the neshama. This is Netanya, yeah. And neshama atzma. Where's the neshama atzma? Ain't tzricha tikun. Netanya, yeah. Is it Netanya? Huh? The neshama atzma ain't tzricha tikun. The neshama is perfect. The neshama is great. The neshama doesn't need a tikun. So why did the neshama come down here? The neshama came down here to change the world, right? To bring Elikos into the Veld, whatever, different biur. But you go through Maamar, especially you'll find many other biur when we are the neshama lamata. And one of the places, I think it's in Balak, it says different biur and when we are the neshama lamata. Achatiritz ha'amiti. What's the tiritz ha'amiti? The tiritz ha'amiti is that the neshama l'mayla is a tzaddik, and when it comes down here, it reaches the level of Baal Tshuva, and that's an aliyah b'makim shebal tshuva. That feels like in Gemara Me'edam, according to one of the Gersois, yichoylin lahamayit. Ah? Yeah. So the tiritz ha'amiti is to become a Baal Tshuva. Now, so l'chayim l'fiza kumteis. Now, what's a tiritz ha'amiti? Not only we bring it as a tiritz, we bring it as a tiritz ha'amiti. The tiritz ha'amiti is that the neshama should reach the level of Baal Tshuva, which is the higher darga. So we say very clear that the tachlis is for an aliyah in the neshama. The neshama should reach a higher darga. So which one is it? Why is the neshama down here? You read the Zu Tzeischa aliyah, right? So with Pashas you say, look, the way he says it in the Maamar, the neshama is down here. The neshama comes down here to do its shlichus. But then we know that the Eibishter, what's the lashon? Einikus Baruch Hu mikapeach schar kol beria. Right? Everyone, you do something that layechatz kalav l'shoyne. When we left Mitzrayim, so the klavim, the dogs got a schar. Achas kama people, achas kama yidden. So the neshama, neshama, achel kama ma'amish does its shlichus. Fine, you'll get some schar. But you see here, it's not just in chud of schar or we're nice, we give you something out of it. It's the yirida zu. It's that's what it's here for, and that's the teretz ha'amid lo miyarden neshama lamata. So one biur was gebracht is einachanan. There's two tracks over here. There's mitzad atzmus, there's mitzad gilui. Mitzad gilui, there's an agenda. Right? Something that we gain. What does the neshama gain through doing its avodah? What's the right? There has to be something that makes sense. Tamadas. So tamadas, that the neshama goes to a higher level. Right? Everything is for a purpose. You need to do tzarich aliyah. Dir b'tachtoinim is a fatayves can cash in it. Right? Dir b'tachtoinim it doesn't have asbara. Doesn't make sense. Why does the Eibishter want a dir b'tachtoinim? What kind of? What does the Eibishter gain out of dir b'tachtoinim? He gets a kick out of it. Like, well, what's the gain, right? We spoke about it on Maamar that there's some sort of hasbara, but I'll leave it as there's no hasbara klal. So mitzad giloyim there has to be a reason. You could say, we say over here the tiritz ha'amiti. It's the teretz ha'amiti. A teretz is when there's a kasha. A fatayim is kasha. So the word of dir b'tachtoinim is no question, no answer. That's not a teretz ha'amiti. You can't give an answer. Why did the neshama come down here for dir b'tachtoinim? That's not an answer. If a type is concussion, it's not an answer. You're not answer anything. The answer is when there's tamadas, question and answer. An answer, the teretz ha'amiti, the highest darga in tirutz, in giluyim, is to become a Baal Tshuva. It's to reach its highest level. That's one knife. Then the Rebbe is Zakta Tifreb here. There's a Meir Dikasir in Chilik Tesvav, Vayetze. Vayetze Gimel, I believe, Chilik Tesvav. Sich about Dir B'tachtoinim, Vayidar Yaakov Neder. And there's a whole sif plus. There's like a sif and a ketam before the sif that seems that Rebbe added in Ksav Yad Ekdesh. I don't know if Mila b'Mila, but the Teuchen, and then they wrote it in. Ad Kadei Kach, that seems that the Sikha was supposed to be ready for print. And the Rebbe added this in. And it's even though this added Ketta made it into the Sikha, but it wasn't incorporated enough that the rest of the Sikha goes along with it. So L'Dugma, the Rebbe added in that Sif, and then before the Sif, and a Ketta a bit earlier. So the Sikha initially was written that there's two biurim of why the Neshama Ketta. Two biurim. The Rebbe added in a third biur. Then later in the Sikha, it speaks about two of the in the Ara. It says this is the difference between the Tiritza Al, the Bira Aleph and Bira Beis. But really, it's Bira Aleph and Bira Gimel. Because Beis was added in later, and the Ara wasn't changed. Also, the end of the Sikha, the Rebbe references the Chiddush of the Sikha, and it doesn't reference this Chiddush. Because it wasn't... It's a very unique situation. But this beer is mamish, it's the Rebbe's beer, it's a very deep beer. It's a very deep beer, and it goes into the sprach of that Sikha, but in order to understand the Shema, I have to go into the whole. I'll try to say the Nekuda without getting lost in the sprach from it. So, there's the beer that you could say there's two tracks, right? It's like Giluim Mitzad Avtzon. But Tifra the Rebbe, no. And this L'chayra would fit with our Maamar. We'll also explain what's happening here. Like, is it a beer? Is it not a beer? Or Shail? Right. First he says that the neshama, it can't be for the neshama itself. Why? Because it comes from the Ma'alam El Yom it comes from the highest dark. Yeah, it's not shaykh. How can you get higher? So you have to say, what's our shlichus? Dir b'tachtoin. So what's our way to dir b'tachtoin? Then he says, the emes you can reach higher. First of all, what just happened? How do you change that? It's like Beis like a tease, and Gimel is like, oh, by the way, yeah. And even then, what's the vart? Through doing your shlichus, you have to do for dir b'tachtoin, and then you also have an aliyah. So the chayr of the mahalach goes like this. Mitzad the neshama is, Itaka comes from the highest darga, and it's mugder over there. It cannot reach higher. All right, what's the dugma brought in, from Nigla brought in Chassidus, Amashol mimayon ein etam. Yeah? That water comes down, right? No, the dugma. There, the mayon will come to the base of Migdash, the water comes from a certain setting, and then it goes down into the, it comes back up. How much higher does it go up? To the same place where it started, right? That's where it meets. It doesn't go higher. So you can only go. We say Yirilu Tzerich Aliyah, but it doesn't really work that way. It's against nature. You shouldn't be able to go higher to a higher place than where you come from. Now, what is in more Havana Dikaisius? The neshama, as high as it is, it's a nivra. And it comes from, Nochecher from Atzilis, and from the Sheirish higher than Atzilis. Chol bees, right? It's bees from Atzilis Yisbar. So, where's the neshama going higher to? What does it mean it's going higher? How does it go higher? The neshama is the hex tazach. Where is there to go higher? Abatzon zel zach b'teir. Elamai. The neshama comes down here and it has a shlichus. The shlichus is lasis le'yis barach dir b'tachtoin. How does it do its shlichus of dir b'tachtoinim? Back to what we were saying in Sif. Vav, the dir b'tachtoinim is when a person lakes sich avek afazait, right? And he's mitzamtzin himself, and he has no agendas, not even in kedusha, he has no interest, no ulterior motives. And kol in yona is l'shamish es koini and liyachla kol shabichu shchinte b'tachtoin, to make a dir b'tachtoin. The Eved Pashi, he's ganzen, er gibt sich chibur zum Eibishter. So a person is ganzen is spatel zum Eibishter. When a person is totally in a spatel to the Eibishter, it makes the dir for the Eibishter, then you transcend Geder Nivra. You transcend Geder Nivra. Because now Kol in Young, what's the whole Indian of the person? The Ratzin Hashem. His whole Metzias is the Eved, right? Eved Melech Melech. Er geht der Reis von seinen eigenen Metzias, and his whole Metzias is what the Eibishter wants. His whole Metzias is Dir B'tachtoin. But there, say that the Rebbe goes different, and the Rebbe says that the emes is that it's mucher goes over Dir B'tachtoinim. Dir B'tachtoinim, it's not enough just to do Torah mitzvahs. To actually make a dir for the Eibush in this world, it's not enough to do Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs has to be done mitoich bittul. Mitoich the bittul of Kabbalah Yisrael, the bittul of the Evet Pasha. Why? Because why attack it only in this world we make a dir of not in other worlds? Because dafka this world we can sich verbinden tatzmusi yisbarach through the hechsta. Because dafka in this world is the highest level of bittul. So dafka through the bittul in this world we make a dir of So Betzim it comes like this. A person comes down to this world, and ultimately, no matter how much he works and how much he refines himself, and wie viel der gerecht, and wie viel streikt, right? What you're striving, you can only reach a certain. You could be megala. You could tap into the deepest koiches you have that weren't begili before, but ultimately they were there by you, right? You can only tzachko be megala them. But when a person is sich nispatel, and call him Yonah is leach the chutz brichu shchinte, Yonah the dir b'tachtoinim, then a person is nisached with the dir b'tachtoinim, is nisached with the likus. Because it's not about him, it's about the dira. It's about the Eibishter. And then through that you're able to reach the aliyah. This that we say the neshama yard lamata, and that the neshama came down here in order to reach an aliyah. What's the aliyah? The aliyah is the real aliyah. There's lower level aliyahs. So that's an aliyah of just being megal, something that was there before that you didn't have access to. But the real aliyah was in they reach a hecher darga that the neshama ma'ilo was a tzaddik and I come about tshuva. What are we saying? What's the ma'ilo about tshuva over tzaddik? Right? The Rambam says kovetz and the bittul. What's the aliyah? The greatest aliyah a person can reach is as der hert. Wasn't there in the other? As der hert as kol in yonah is l'shamash eskoyin. That he loses a sense of self. That's the aliyah. The greatest aliyah, the greatest dark a person can reach is not shayelim, not gilui aliyo, not any other some gilui. That's all gilui. That's the teretz abiti maybe. But what's the greatest aliyah a person reaches? As er geht reis von sich, as kol in yonah is l'shamash eskoyin. So the dira b'tachtoinim and the tirutz hamiti and the tirutz aliyah are one. It's one and the same. So we're saying like this: Be'etzem a person comes down to this world siv beis. You can't say the kavan is just for his aliyah because what's the aliyah? The higher you go, just be megala who he is already before. Say, why is he here for dir b'tachtoinim for the Eibishter's kavan? But once he gives, but now once there's a dir b'tachtoinim kavana here, and once he's able to access dir b'tachtoinim and be in touch with dir b'tachtoinim, give himself over to dir b'tachtoinim, through this he's taka able to reach this aliyah of Sif Gimel, which is miyusad on dir b'tachtoinim, right? He's able to reach this aliyah as a taka git that rise from the Egened and Didas Vagbalis. He goes out of his gdarim, and kol in yonah is what? That's a leik tzachot by a yid. That's kol in yonah is l'shamash eskoyin. Then the Sikh goes, there's nachti for that. There's late tzachot as there's shamash eskoyin. It's already a heritage. But then there's a feel sleitzich nishta. That's already dakos. Ten lechach nechkamoy. Very dikasicha. But that's in the kudah. The ultimate aliyah is that you completely lose a sense of self. That you and dir b'tachtoinim come one. And that also connects to the Indian. On one hand we say an Indian base l'shamash eskoyni. On the other hand we say that tachlis of a yid is the yid himself. As we spoke about in another Maamar, I believe. Yeah. Is the yid here for a purpose, or is tachlis in a yid alei? Elamai, an Indian base l'shamash eskoyni is that this is the identity of a yid. The true identity of a yid is kol in yonah is dir b'tachtoinim. Here and dir b'tachtoinim are one and the same. In other words, his identity is the shlila from Metzias, as hecher from Metzias. His whole Metzias is bittul. Fine. Tell the chacham.